X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. And Adam?
Hey, how's it going?
You know, it's going good. Tonight we're going to talk about a writer who I like to think is a bit of a obscure classic in terms of X-Men. We've got an episode all about some of the forgotten works of this guy. And by forgotten, I mean stuff that's just older. Like, we're talking 70s comics.
Sure. Here. Yeah. You might be talking about good old Papa Claremont, aren't you?
Yes, we are talking about friend of the show, Chris Claremont. And we're going to talk about some of the stories that Claremont wrote in his earlier days in the 70s. So this will be fun. We're doing this because of Patreon supporter Robert. If you want to be like Robert, you can go on over to patreon.com/comicsxf. Toss a couple of coins into our coffers, and you know what? We're going to do something special for you. We're gonna make an episode all about your wild, deep cuts that you would like to see us talk about.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to describe this episode as like missing links to arcs that we've talked about before, but then I realized that's every episode of our show, technically. So
I had a friend. We were talking about different X-Men podcasts, as you do, and we're describing, oh, well, this podcast's more like X-Men 101. This one's like a sophomore level course, or like a deep lecture dive into certain facets of X-Men. And Zach and Adam, your podcast is like two guys high on 2 a.m. in the cafeteria talking about X-Men. I'm like, yeah, that's the vibe we're striving for here on this X-Men podcast, of which there are a billion.
Yeah, and I would disagree with that if once we get to our third choice today, I think people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? So why don't we start with like a cut that I think most people are familiar with. This is Uncanny X-Men number 104, and this is the time that the all-new X-Men, after Giant Size, first encounter Magneto.
Yeah, the gentleman's name is Magneto.
Yes, that's the name of the story.
And it's written by Chris Claremont, pencils by Dave Cockrum. This is odd. So I think it's fair to say Magneto was the good villain of the original X-Men comics in the Silver Age, and he wasn't really that good. He was just their Doctor Doom, only worse.
Right. Yeah, he's Doctor Doom light, but he had powers that could do just about anything, right?
Right, and Marvel had used him as kind of like a jobber in some other books while the X-Men they were taking their short break.
Mm-hmm.
But 1977 rolls around, and Adam, you know what Magneto was doing right before this?
If I remember correctly, and fans, you might remember this as well, Magneto, he's a baby.
Yeah, Magneto was a baby.
De-aged in Defenders number 17 or something like that?
Yeah, something. Yeah, Defender 16.
There we go.
What had happened, and I think this is very funny, is that Magneto created life again. Because you got to remember, Magneto used to like mutate people.
Right.
Like, we think about that 2000s X-Men movie being a little weird. Now, that was pretty accurate to what Magneto was doing for like just a weird spell between 1968 and 1974.
Mm-hmm.
And Magneto created Alpha, the Ultimate Mutant, and Alpha, the Ultimate Mutant, made him a baby.
Not just him, though, right? Didn't he make a couple of villains into babies?
Do you know who his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants is in 1974, Adam?
No, I don't.
Blob,
Mm-hmm.
Mastermind,
Okay.
Unis the Untouchable,
Loving it.
and Lorelei
Oh,
from the Savage Land.
okay. That's a strange pick, but all right. cool, I guess.
I've never read this Defenders comic. It doesn't sound good because Magneto does get turned into a baby during it.
Well, this all comes back because the X-Men team have been called to Moira's mutant research island, which they had no
Moira,
idea
their
existed.
housekeeper?
This issue is a lot of fun to read in the context of the Moira retcon, isn't it?
It's a heck of a lot of fun to read in the context of the Moira retcon. It's a heck of a lot of fun to read in general because, oh my gosh, it's weird because X-Men is still finding its feet. And
Right.
that's the thing that I don't think people understand is that they were really trying to figure out what this franchise was.
Yeah, there's some world building going on here, though, right? Because, Claremont had previously written giant-sized Fantastic Four #4 and introduced Jimmy Madrox, who is knocked out on this island. He's Moira's research assistant. And, they've been called to figure this out and see what's going on. So Cyclops is with Moira, but the rest of the team has to borrow a hovercraft from Angus McWhorter.
Angus is not long for this world.
Oh boy, and he's not happy because, and that hovercraft doesn't last for long either because Magneto is he's gonna crash the poor X-Men into Moira Island.
Yeah, Magneto crashes him into Muir Island, and they get into a fight. Do you know why do you know why Magneto stops being a baby, Adam?
I believe it was because Eric the Red stopped by.
Yeah, Eric the Red. Eric the Red, guy who's just ever present in early X-Men comics for no good reason. I love Eric the Red.
There does seem to be an ongoing thing with the Shi'ar, and hey, we'll get to this, but we do get our first glimpse at the Starjammers in this issue.
We do get our first glimpse at the Starjammers.
Yeah, talk about trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. Because the next issue, because what's also happening in this issue is that Jean Grey is introducing her parents to her new roommate, Misty Knight.
Yeah, getting some new status quos going on here. But the fight between Magneto and the new X-Men is really funny, right? I mean, we're realizing that, Colossus being made of metal and Wolverine at this point having his metal claws, not great for fighting the Master of Magnetism.
Just immediately, they're like, oh, Magneto's going to be a challenge in the future. Moving forward, Magneto, we're going to lose 2 of our dudes right away. Just there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. I mean, he basically, picks Colossus up and throws him like a tennis ball. I mean,
it's very much that part in the first X-Men movie where they're on the train and Magneto comes down and he's like, "Oh, Wolverine, wait, you know I do metal, right?" And he throws him. He's like, "You aren't actually effective here. This is not your fight."
Yeah, it's pretty great. Cyclops is very cocky here. He's very upset because, the new team hasn't trained to fight Magneto. Only the original team knows how to take Magneto down.
To be fair, they lose. Magneto just escapes.
Yeah. And Wolverine wants to follow him, and Cyclops is like, "Nah, dude, we're going home."
He's another person's problem now. It'll be fine. And he's going to be A-okay that he was a baby in a cell that Moira McTaggart was taking care of for a while. That's not going to come back to bite the X-Men several times.
Magneto never holds a grudge. I
think so. In light of the House of X Powers of 10 retcons, I do think it's beautiful that you can pinpoint all of his 90s action to his huge character shift back to super evil is that he stopped following the plan because he found out that he got tricked into being a baby and that Moira may have done something to him and he's not sure. And he's just like, "Screw all of you guys. I'm doing this my own way now and I don't actually care."
Yeah, it does work. And it is fun to go back to these issues and connect them to Mutant Genesis, X-Men 1, 2, and 3. And I love the Starjammers cameo at the end. We have Corsair hanging out with Chode and Kree, and we also get a little Alondra cameo here. So we're really starting to expand. Oh, we also get a little like in the background preview of Proteus.
Yeah,
on Muir Island.
Claremont.
So
This is like Claremont is seeding things here. I don't think he knows where he's necessarily going with all of this, but he's throwing ideas out there. Like,
Yep.
right, it takes a little bit for the book to take off. And even now, even at like 104, it's going to take a bit. It's still ramping up into being like the good book.
right.
But
Yeah,
it's getting
and it's
pretty darn close.
about a year later that they will re-encounter Magneto in the Magneto triumphant story, and we'll talk about that in a second because it kind of leads into our second story. But I don't think this is as good as that.
It is not. I think you're talking about how we rank stories on this list, Adam. Is that correct?
Yes, that was my segue.
Yeah. So on this X-Men podcast, we rank every story from A to Z, and by that we mean from best to worst of all time. The best X-Men story is the House of X Powers of 10. The 100th best story is Early Frost from Uncanny 314. 200, Mercury Falling from New X-Men. 300, X-Force, Volume 6, 17 through 19. I forget which one that is. It's a Percy thing. It's good. 400, X-Men Age of Apocalypse from 2005. Number 500 is Marvel Team Up, Volume 3, number 19. We got some weird stories on this list. Number 600 on this list is the Shatterstar Saga. And then the Draco's at 638. Or 36, excuse me. 636.
Wow.
You highlighted Magneto Triumphant.
What's that?
110.
Yeah, this is not as good as that. I think I'm just
I
working
think it's a
my
good
way.
amount of spots down.
Yeah, I'm going into the 200s here.
Because New Mutants Annual is 198. New Mutants Annual is a step change better than this.
Absolutely. I mean, this is kind of fun, but I don't know. Like, it's also
Magic Four Nights is better.
it's kind of goofy.
That one issue of Excalibur where they go to a bar at 241 is better.
Yeah.
Is this better than Hearts of Darkness at 254?
Man, I love Hearts of Darkness. You're going to make me...
I know you love Hearts of Darkness.
Yeah.
I think it is better than Hearts of Darkness.
I think You think this is better than Hearts of Darkness? I think
Yes,
this is providing a lot of... This is better also than Marvel Fanfare 7, Blob and Eunice versus the Hulk.
You think this is better than Blob and Eunice versus the Hulk?
Yes, but I don't know if it's better than the first appearance of Juggernaut at 250.
No, that is... The first appearance of Juggernaut is better. This can be our new 251.
Okay, I think that's a good spot for it. Put it in a little block there with some other villains, which is great. And so I mentioned about a year later, we have the X-Men fighting Magneto again in his volcano lair. The X-Team gets separated, and that is where we are picking up with our second story, which is Uncanny what here, Zach?
114 to 116. It's Chris Claremont and John Byrne joint. You know Terry Austin's on those inks.
Awesome. Love Terry Austin. Superstar.
And you know what? The last one introduced Magneto to the all new, all different X-Men's roster. Mm-hmm. This one adds a couple of new villains as well. First, you got Garok, the Petrified Man, and then you also have
Zaladane, she whose very name brings shivers of fear to the meek.
Not to mention, we are also going to meet Karl Lycos and Sauron again.
Yeah, Sauron's in this one.
R.I.P. Neil Adams.
Yeah, rest in peace, Neil. You did give us a Petrosaur and some jorts, and I don't know what else there is to say about that. It rules. This is a weird story. So, it's always felt to me that the X-Men definitely lost a bit of direction right here, where they get split up for like a year from Beast and Jean and Xavier. And there's fun stories here, but it takes a bit to get back into high gear. Now, granted, when they get back into high gear, it's Proteus and then Dark Phoenix Saga and then Days of Future Past. So, and then God Loves Man Kills, like, right in that next year. So they kind of hit into highest possible gear.
Yeah, and there's nothing Claremont loves more than separating the team and then bringing them back together. So this is basically a Savage Land story, while Jean and the Beast made it out of where are they? They're on the winter side of Antarctica.
Yes.
The rest of our team punched through enough rock. Yeah, the rest of the team punched through enough rock to get to the Savage Land.
Yeah, they're in the Hollow Earth part.
Right. So, while they're there...
Zaladane, she whose word means life or agony-filled death,
is trying to resurrect Garrock, what is he? The living something?
The Petrified Man.
The Petrified Man, thank you. Who's going to do bad stuff. What is Garrock's deal? I always forget. Does he have a deal?
He's a god. He's you know how
Zaladane, she who speaks.
she is a priestess, a dinosaur priestess.
Yes.
And she's worshiping the Petrified Man, Garrock.
Anyway,
that's all.
The X-Men have to stop dinosaurs. They have to stop Sauron. They have to stop
Zaladane
and Garrock. And they, are just kind of hanging out in like little to no clothing. Like, Cyclops makes the great. I love the Cyclops scene where he realizes he looks like Corsair.
Yeah, that rules when he's like, wait a minute, if I wear this bandana and give myself a mustache, I look like Corsair. And I know Corsair said my name. How could he know?
How does he know? American slang in space.
It'll take like 6 years for Cyclops to actually realize that that's his dad. But it's very funny here. You get some great interaction. I love the Wolverine and Colossus interactions in this, where Colossus is very dumb and doesn't realize he's about to have his first threesome, and Wolverine's like, I'm not going to ruin this for you, kid.
The Storm is been having a rough time with all this underground stuff happening, so she is very re-energized by being in the Savage Land, and yet becomes Sauron's victim, because Karl Lycos feeds off of energy and becomes his pterodactyl self for the second issue of the arc.
Yeah, that part's not as... I don't know. It's fine. Here's the thing. Like, I like all of these issues. I like them a lot. It's just like, I know how good X-Men is about to be, and these feel like they aren't there just yet. They're about to be the best comic.
Yeah, I was thinking while I was reading this, given that John Byrne, who I don't like as a person...
John Byrne, official enemy of this podcast,
has spent a great deal of time writing fanfic of X-Men on his own time. And a lot of it takes place, from what I have seen, in the Savage Land.
It opens in the Savage Land. I have not kept up with John Byrne's fan comic that he does.
Yeah, there's apparently quite a few of those. I don't know. But
he's keeping himself busy.
Good, great. Just keep him off the internet and away from people.
No one can keep John Byrne off the internet. Our greatest scientists have tried.
I will say that his artwork with Terry Austin here looks fantastic. This seems like a really fun thing for them to be drawing. You get Kazar. You get... what is Kazar's...
Zabu!
Zabu, thank you. You get
honestly
Sauron.
Upset you don't know that off the top of your head.
It's been a long day. Zabu escaped my mind. So it does seem like this is something that, Claremont and Byrne and Austin can all agree is like, hey, this is going to be a blast. Let's go have a jungle adventure. And then we'll bring everybody back and we'll have the big, milestone adventures. So, it's not as good as the stuff that will come immediately after it, but it's still a fun, pulpy kind of adventure.
It is. I, in general, enjoy this. It's just not the best. Like, it's just a pulp tale. It's not, this is what X-Men comics are. And I think we've talked at length that, like, you don't get the mutant metaphor stuff till about 150. You get, or I guess really Days of Future Past. Now that I say that out loud, no, it's 141. It's Days of Future Past where that really kicks into gear. In all of the Claremont and Burns stuff up to it is pretty good, but it doesn't reach those same heights as Proteus and Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past. And maybe it's not fair to judge it against those, but that's what I'm judging it against.
I think it's completely understandable, to compare the two, because that's what we do every week. But I do think there's some cool stuff happening here. It's just doesn't reach the higher highs. So I guess if you are going to enjoy this one, it's going to depend a great deal on how much you love Savage Land stuff. And, do you want to see Wolverine stab a Velociraptor in the head after it bit his hand? That's fun.
There is a part that I think is actually really interesting where Wolverine kills a dude, and it's like the first time Wolverine just straight up kills a dude.
Yeah. And everybody's like, wait, what? We're doing this now? There's a lot of Wolverine character development in this, right? We see him without the costume on, having these like interpersonal conversations. We see him talk to Zabu and like be able to communicate animal to animal. There's a lot of little things here that are sort of building him out a little bit more, which is cool.
There's a lot that's building him out. There's some fun stuff. It's going to depend how much you care about
Zaladane!
And I'm going to be very honest, Adam. My friend, I know there's a lot of people who are very excited about
Zaladane!
Sure. Lorna Dane's sister.
Lorna Dane's sisters.
Zaladane!
I'm just making so much work for you. I'm sorry.
Of the Danes.
Of the Danes. Yes, that's how names work. I do think she's kind of stupid. Like, she was never one of the characters that I latched onto, and I'm so glad that people have found joy in
Zaladane, she whose very name brings shivers of fear to the meek.
But I just haven't.
Look, you could look at any X-Men character and really think, hey, this is a dum-dum. So it's really personal taste, right?
I don't know what you're talking about, Adam. I definitely have not glommed on to Glob Herman and or Maggot for no apparent reason.
Look, everybody's got their faves, and that's great. I think right off the bat, I'm looking at 341 on our list, which is Marvel Fanfare 1 through 4, which is the Savage Land story drawn by Michael Golden. Is that Michael Golden?
Well, drawn by a lot of people. It switches. Zaladane is in that one too, just as a point of reference.
Yes, I think this is way better than that though. So I would probably work up the list a little bit, but maybe way higher is, I don't know.
289 is that time Wolverine fought a sentient pile of cocaine.
I think that's better.
Yeah, this is better than that. This is not as good as Here Comes Tomorrow at 294.
I would agree, but I think this is probably better than Legion Quest at 292.
Well, no. I'm saying Here Comes Tomorrow is better than this.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. Let's work our way down.
Okay, hold on. I think I have the spot for it.
Okay.
And maybe this is just me being sentimental based on issues that just came out, starting Thunderbird. I think at a current 300, X-Force -1.
Yes.
I think X-Force -1 is better.
Interesting.
But
okay.
I would slide this in between X-Force -1 and that Percy X-Force arc we just talked about. That's the Quentin Quire stuff.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that artistically this is probably more interesting. I would, if I would squeeze it in between, you know what, just put it there. I'm thinking too hard about this, and I think that this story is like not that interesting. So 301 it is. Yeah.
It's fine. What is interesting though is our next story.
Yeah. Never heard of this, and I'm very excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I had to fight. I say fight's the wrong word. I had to make suggestions to Adam that we should cover this story when we're talking about things that Chris Claremont did back in the 70s that are kind of forgotten. This comic came out in 1992.
Sort of.
So this is Marvel Superheroes 10 and 11, the Ms. Marvel stories. Now, very specifically, these were the initial plans more or less, for Ms. Marvel 23 and 24. At the time, Claremont was writing the book, and he had a couple of things that ended up being X-Men items that were in these. It's very interesting. So what we can see is in this first one here, called Sabretooth Stalks the Subway. It's Chris Claremont and Mike Vosberg. Mike Vosberg was the artist on these books, on the Ms. Marvel books. So this one was done. This one was like, maybe it wasn't lettered. It was more or less in the can.
Yeah, so with the series being canceled at number 23, these are the 2 issues that were supposed to come after it. And issue 24, which is reprinted in Marvel Superheroes 10, it even includes the cover. And it really does seem like this entire issue was in the can. Now, the next issue we'll get into a second, it kind of looks like some of it was done. So it's a little more unclear about how much of it was finished. But it is really wild that this series had these issues just sitting around for so long.
It's weird that you had not just... This first one I understand. It's an early Sabretooth story. It's in fact the second Sabretooth story after his appearance in Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an early Claremont story. And Claremont was their biggest writer for how long? A decade? Decade and some change?
Yeah, easily. And the basic plot is pretty interesting. You know, you've got the Canadian government protesting about sending Sabretooth into America. And,
yeah, they want to use Sabretooth in case they want to get back Weapon X. That is Wolverine. Which, if you look at when this was supposed to come out, was right around the time of that Wolverine, one of the Wolverine stories where they said, "Hey, we're gonna." It's right after the Canada thing, where the X-Men are on their way back from the Savage Land that we just talked about. It's right after that.
Yeah, after when Alpha Flight tries to get them.
Exactly. So this is Claremont weaving between his books, saying, "Hey, look, this is a thing I did. See it? Sabretooth is connected to Wolverine. I'm making this happen."
It's pretty great to see Jasper Sitwell losing his mind about this. He's like, you don't understand. This guy is a mass murderer. You're going to release him into the wild? You're insane. And
which at the time, let's be fair, Sabretooth was just like a generic bad guy. He was not Sabretooth, the guy who kills a lot of people all the time.
Right. Now, this being the last 2 issues of this run of Ms. Marvel, it is also interesting that some of this stuff hadn't seen the light of day. There are characters being profiled here, you know, that either died or being reunited with Ms. Marvel, and none of this stuff saw print. So it's weird that, like, the continuity having just been left in a filing cabinet for so long, it's wild.
Yeah, it is so weird. Number 10 or Marvel Superheroes 10, pretty basic stuff. There's some stuff with Carol, who obviously Chris Claremont really liked as a character, was building up stories with her, and continued those stories in his Avengers, or not his Avengers, excuse me, and continued those stories in X-Men. We'll get to that bridge. But he was also building up characters like Mystique. She was introduced in Ms. Marvel, going to be a main enemy of Ms. Marvel, and we'll see the fruits of that. But she doesn't do anything in the 23 issues of Ms. Marvel that are printed. She shows up once. That's it.
Right. And the early form of Mystique is interesting. You know, you get a chance to see her shape-shifting, but even her partnership with Destiny in her initial appearances is not really clear. In her very first appearance, where you actually get to see her, you see her with some sort of like paperweight on her desk with maybe some image coming off of it, and her talking about how she's gonna, you know, obey the Lord, or, you know, whoever this character is. Now,
yeah.
Is that supposed to be Destiny? Like, what is it? And it very quickly turns into, okay, Destiny has had this vision. Mystique and Ms. Marvel are going to collide in some way, And, Ms. Marvel, who kind of has this sixth sense about her, right? She has this ability to, forecast. It's kind of like her own spidey sense. She's also sensing Mystique is coming and is going to be her doom.
And that's just very generic stuff. In the second issue, the second part of this is where it gets interesting. Because it's written by Claremont with Simon Furman also does some work on this. There's a very clear delineation point of this is where the issue would have initially ended, and then this is stuff they added in the 90s to pad it out. There's a change from Mike Vosberg to Mike Gustovich on pencils. Furman absolutely does all of that work in writing, and how much of Claremont's actual script was finished.
That's a great question. It really is. Are you familiar with Furman? I mean, I obviously know Furman from his run on Transformers.
Yeah, he's the Transformers guy.
Right. So it's really weird seeing him pick up this and kind of give it almost feels like the end of a What If issue to give this little synopsis of like
feels
where
a lot like the end of a What If issue here.
Doesn't it? Like it fast forwards through what happens to Ms. Marvel after this in Avengers Annual 10 and turning into Binary and all of that stuff. But the second issue, I think, is still more interesting than the first because you have...
If this comes out, if this issue actually comes out as an issue of Ms. Marvel, do you know who you are introduced for the first time in this issue?
This is the Hellfire Club.
The Hellfire Club, Sebastian Shaw, Harry Leland, Donald Pierce, Tessa.
Yep, Sage is here.
You got Destiny, you got Avalanche, you got Pyro. You have Mystique's Brotherhood team that shows up in Days of Future Past, with the exception of Blob, who was a later addition that John Byrne put in because he wanted to have some connectivity to the original Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, or at least the 60s version. Yes, Blob wasn't one of the original members. He's there pretty, within like the first year.
Yeah. We're seeing a little bit of Rogue here as well. So
and Rogue is very much a later addition. She's not in the Claremont parts of this. She is.
Well, she is still on the Vosberg pages though. If you look, she is on page 19, and the story switches over after Pyro like shoots this giant flame phoenix into the sky at Miss Marvel. It
Something
immediately
that looks like it would be a splash page to end an issue in 1979.
Sure. And the very next page, like you can tell we're in 1992, baby. Like, this art looks very much of the time. And like, it's very obvious that we've got the Jim Lee Liefeld influence on what's going on here. It looks terrible.
It does not look good.
And it's all designed to kind of be this bridge between where it was left off and where it was going. I don't know if it was necessary. It's such a weird thing.
Here's the one weird thing they add. I say one weird thing, like this isn't just like weird that this exists. What they add to that 92 edition to it is the fight between Ms. Marvel and Rogue.
Yes.
That you never see before. You see a bridge and Ms. Marvel falling off of it, and that's what you get in that Avengers Annual. You don't get a big knockdown, drag-out fight where Rogue absorbs all of Ms. Marvel's powers and sets both characters up for what they're going to become.
Yeah, and that does beg the question. Was this the original ending of 25?
No. No, I can tell you for a fact. The answer is no. They solicited what 25 was going to be. It was going to be a breather issue.
Interesting. Okay.
Like they were going to wrap up this thing, and then it was going to go to a different plot, and there's going to be other stuff going on. So no, all of this is manufactured to say, okay, Ms. Marvel's over. How do we connect it to everything that actually happened?
Yeah. Regardless, I think this is fascinating. It's an absolutely fascinating artifact of this time period. The fact that it stayed on a shelf for so long and then they decided to pull it out for, I think most people know about this book, Marvel Superheroes, because of the single issue that goes for lots of money because it has Squirrel Girl in it with the Eric Larson cover. But the rest of these issues as part of this series was all basically remainders and, just fill-in issues, like maybe some stuff from Marvel Comics Presents that was thrown in there. It's not very high quality
stuff. No,
yeah.
It's a bad quarterly book. And I don't know if these stories are good, actually. I do think they are very interesting, and you can see Claremont's DNA in this.
100%. It's all about, his strategies of, trying to cross-pollinate all of these books with his characters so that you would follow along and that you would read everything that he was writing and get you excited about it. And I think for people who are, looking for those connective threads and have never seen these because you didn't realize they were there, if you look these up in Marvel Unlimited, the rest of the 80 pages of each of these issues are not on Unlimited, but the Ms. Marvel stuff is. So I definitely recommend you at least take a look at it. It's one of the weirder things that I've seen, in terms of looking at archival material, deciding to republish it and deciding to add a new ending that connects to Avengers Annual 10. It's really weird.
Is it good?
That's debatable.
How do we feel about it compared to 598 on our list, which is Marvel Superhero Special 6 through 8, which is that time Roy Thomas wrote an Australian Outback X-Men story that connects back to his Sentinel story, where they fly into the moon or the sun.
Yeah, this is better. This is definitely better than that.
This is better than that. This is better than X-Women at 582. Again, X-Women is a beautiful, beautiful comic that's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I do think we're probably in the 500s, though.
We're in the 500s.
I'm looking at 529, which is Brood Feud 2, and I think that's more fun than this.
Yeah, I'd rather reread Brood Feud 2. I'd rather read Heroes for Hope at 537.
Yeah.
I'd rather read Iceman Volume 1 at 543.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
How do you feel about it compared to Quest Probe?
I think from a historical perspective...
The X-Men's video game tie-in comic for a video game that never came out.
Just in terms of its context alone, I think this is more interesting than Quest Probe. But I don't think it's better than at 544 X-Force and Cable Annual 97.
I don't think this is better than the Onslaught X-Force and X-Man stuff.
All right. So is this going to be our new 546?
This will be our new 546. We'll eventually find some more Ms. Marvel stuff. I really do like Carol Danvers because I'm an X-Men fan. And I've read the stuff where she's binary and it rules. I truly wish there was more good Carol Danvers comics out there.
Yeah. And going back and reading the Ms. Marvel series for the Mystique stuff was fun in getting ready for this episode. So
you got Deathbird stuff in there?
Yeah.
Claremont.
Yeah. There's a lot of threads that he is starting to weave there, and it's really neat.
It is some wild, wild times.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Patreon supporter Robert for helping us out here and saying we should talk about some weird stuff. Bud, we talked about some weird stuff. If you want to be like Robert, patreon.com/comicsxf. That's X-Ray Foxtrot. And, yeah, throw some money. We'll do an episode for you. We got a lot coming. A lot of weird stuff coming for sure. But some good stuff, too. We also would like to thank
Zaladane, she who speaks,
for her great contribution to this. Adam, what do you got going on?
Not much, folks. You can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. And Zach, this snuck up on us. Next week is our 250th episode.
Did we plan a bit for this? No.
No.
Y'all got a lot of bits out of us in the past. This one, we're just going to have a nice little birthday episode celebrating Wolverine. But the one we like more.
Laura
Until then, folks, it's Laura. We like Laura. We're modern X-Men fans. We're men of taste. But until then, folks, this has been Val the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!